Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Wednesday. Children, take your places. Gary, how are you?
Well, it was another one of those days.
Let me close with this. After I signed the PAC Act into law.
Sounds like the noise my first car made when I first tried to start it.
You know, I started when that was posted on social media. You had liberals jumping on board saying you shouldn't be making fun of somebody who has cognitive and dementia problems. It's like that's the point. The family and the Democrats say that he does not.
He doesn't. If you're telling me he does, then they need to tell me he does.
Right. That's the look. If they would come out and say he has dementia, I would still play it because it's of public interest because he's the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. And if he has dementia or the cognitive problems that we believe he has, he should resign. That's why we play it. I don't find anything funny with having a president of the United States who is completely incompetent and we suspect doesn't have a clue as to what's going on.
No, it's
where you
tragic.
Wonder who's making the decisions.
It's tragic. Okay. Nothing short of tragic. So they can decide. The people, if you're saying that, you should be angry at the people that are propping him up, including his wife, the First Lady. Because she would be the one most responsible, most knowledgeable about his condition. Talk to her, not me. What else is going on, Gary?
I don't even know where to start today. Very, very quickly, I'll hit the thing. Let's hit the thing that went viral like crazy. But I really want to get to the Pentagon admits that the U.S. built pier to Gaza is failing to provide aid. Major General Patrick Ryder revealed on Tuesday, in the department's estimation, none of over the 500 metric tons of aid from the U.S. built pier has made it to the people of Gaza. But we'll get to that here in just a moment. But because it went crazy on social media. Even I saw conservative websites tempering it down a little bit because you heard that the Obama the Biden administration wanted to assassinate Trump and everything else because of the warrant for deadly force. Mm-hmm. Here's the problem, with that because the FBI came out and said, "Well, this is our standard procedure." And for most people, when you think about it, it probably is standard procedure for every police department to know that they may have to use deadly force when they serve a warrant. Mm-hmm. But the problem is this isn't an everyday warrant and an everyday citizen.
Well, it's the problem with issuing this warrant and doing this kind of raid on this type of individual.
Right. This isn't a normal situation at all.
And remember, and he said it, and he's pretty damn proud of it. The AG, I signed off on that.
Yep. That's the problem with it, and you combine that. And so this, again, is the political problem, is the fact that the lawfare that is going on, the problem that Democrats have is the public already believes that all these court cases against Trump are political. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking yesterday when I was watching Jonathan Turley, talk about the fact that, look, these jurors believe that a campaign violation, law violation, that there was a campaign violation here, a legal campaign violation. Because there wasn't. The judge has allowed it over and over again, which, again, you have said the judge has allowed lies. He's lying, to the jury by putting that out. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so this jury, this jury may convict. And I'm thinking to myself, that just makes Trump a bigger martyr.
Oh, you convict him on something that doesn't even apply?
Yeah. where you can't even figure out what the law is. I'm like, wow.
Well, I said a couple of weeks ago, Alvin Bragg, if he's wanting to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, better hope there's not a conviction.
And so when you take everything together, because, look, the public looks at everything in the totality, and every single day there's something coming out, with the lawfare that started at one point. You know how bad it is for the Democrats? MSNBC brought back Comey.
Yeah.
The biggest example of rot in law enforcement since J. Edgar Hoover.
Remember him standing out in the field staring, the picture he posted on social media? Like it was some kind of thoughtful moment.
But the biggest rot, the biggest example of rot stink inside the FBI, it's like, we got to bring back Comey. Bring back Comey again. Bring back Comey.
Yeah, the guy who wrote about Trump in his book, I thought his tie was too long. Wow. You talk about just a weirdo.
Yeah, we said it. Remember when he was testifying and you and I looked at each other? We said it on the air. We said,
it's creepy.
He does not talk like an investigator.
He doesn't
at all. He's a politician.
He doesn't use LEO language.
Yeah.
He just doesn't use, and they do have their own language. I mean, it's their training. And you go through it. And it's funny. I was actually I was watching a documentary on an old case. It's a 46-year-old case, and watching each of the investigators, including the newer investigators who were on it as a cold case file, as they talk, you're listening to their language, which is what you listen for and what you and I were wanting to hear from Comey. You don't always hear it from like an AG. You should. I still listen for that kind of legal language from an AG. But from Comey, from the top FBI official, you should listen for that language, and it should be very concise without emotion. And man, this guy was just weird. He had that weird smirk on his face. And he told us more. I still think, even still today, he doesn't realize how much he gave up about the upper echelon at the FBI. He told us so much about how it worked when he was there and was still working even after he was gone. It gave us some insight. It was it was the first taste of the Twitter files, but not with all the details, but with the way and he said it and what he said during that testimony over and over again. And they think that he's a good witness now. This is, I guess you're just so desperate to bring anybody on. We've been saying all along with the Trump case, where's the left? Every left mainstream media outlet has their own, not just one, usually it's a few, legal person on, and they bring him on, and here's the law he broke, here's where I think he clearly broke it, over and over again. That would have been from the beginning, the moment we learned about the 34 counts. Over and over, they would have been all day, every day on it. The trial may not have even taken as long if there were actual proof of him breaking the law, and there isn't. But in the back of my mind, I've accounted for a pretty decent chance that the jury comes back with a guilty verdict.
Oh yeah, I've always thought that. I mean, we would be again. All you need is one. And Cohen was so bad, you never know. But what you have here again is a rogue judge and a rogue prosecutor, and nobody. You think about Turley and Dershowitz talking about this. Nobody will challenge them directly.
No.
You don't see anybody on that nobody will challenge. And remember, Jonathan Turley and Dershowitz are both Democrats.
Yeah, right.
They've
been very clear about that.
Right, they're not Trump fans.
And Andrew McCarthy, McCarthy, who's written in recent weeks about his I won't say disdain for Donald Trump, but the fact that he doesn't favor Donald Trump politically.
Right. And you look at it when they talk about the law and they talk about how court cases are supposed to run. But understand this. Look, this is something that people have to understand. You have Fonnie Willis just won her primary.
Is she still winning elections?
Right. Democrats, remember, this just isn't the Democrats in Congress or the administration.
Nope.
You have Democrat voters and a significant portion that will put somebody like Fonnie Willis back. You know, it was the primary, so Democrats brought back in, they want lawfare.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want, there are many Democrats out there that don't give a damn about the Constitution, don't care about the legal process, don't care about due process under the law, doesn't care about the Bill of Rights. A significant portion of Democrats, remember, a party, we used to hear all the time, well, these politicians aren't doing the work of the people. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. And you and I have talked about it on the right with the GOP. We're concerned because there aren't as many rank and file conservatives, our audience notwithstanding. But look at the representation on Capitol Hill. You and I were able to find maybe at one point 1 1/4 true conservatives on Capitol Hill. But Fonnie Willis is still winning elections. And keep in mind, Letitia James, Fonnie Willis, they are fulfilling campaign promises.
Yeah.
This is what they promised the people. This is how they got to where they are. The people want them doing this. Their constituents believe in this kind of lawfare. That's where we are. Forget about who the faces of all this are. Yeah, their behavior is reprehensible, but they're getting away with it. Alvin Bragg won the election. He won. He was elected to office. This is not something where they just walk in, where someone just comes in and says,
Yeah, these aren't appointed people.
Right. And Alvin Bragg, same thing. I mean, you go back to the campaign promises. What are the campaign promises? What are the campaign promises? You see it. Letitia James, you see it. Fonnie Willis, you see it. Bragg was the one. Again, we bring it up. Our audience has been with us for a while. You know this and you've heard it, but it bears repeating. He floated the idea, if you use a gun in the commission of a robbery and don't fire the gun, then we won't charge you with a felony. He had to back away from that. But that's how radical he is. And the only thing he was doing is testing his constituents to see how radical they are. What was it the other day that somebody made someone made the comment that New Yorkers are fair-minded people or whatever it was, and then you stopped it.
Jonathan Turley, where he said that they're very inquisitive people that ask questions and don't like to be conned.
And you said 42% of New York City actually supported the soda cup size ban.
Yeah.
42%, not 22%. And that's where we are. That's the makeup of this nation. This is what should concern everybody. And we get back to, the other things with the national debt. How many people are screaming about it? A handful of us in the corner. And it is a massive, massive catastrophe that is waiting to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when. The cliff is going to be reached, and there's no way. You can't fly. You can't flap your arms, and you don't have a parachute. It is straight down. When it happens, it's going to be brutal.
It was one of those days yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was. It really was. You and I don't, we really don't know what to expect out of any given day. But the defense rests, and now we'll see where it goes. We'll see, what comes down. I don't know. Is there one juror? Are there two? Man, two would be, I would consider that to be a miracle. But if one won't go along with the others. That would be a miracle to me. I've priced in a guilty verdict. And you talk about making a martyr out of Trump, because you step away from this case and everybody starts talking about the election as if the case, even in the mainstream media, they talk about the polls, and often when they talk about the polls, they don't bring up the case. What does that tell you? They know this isn't real. They know that he's legitimately the nominee for the GOP, and that in the polls, he's showing favoritism. He's showing to be the favorite more and more. And even yesterday, the piece on, well, Biden should do something for the country and step down. That tells you they know, they believe, right now at least, that Trump is going to win. When you step away from this trial, they look at everything and go, oh, yeah, Trump's actually leading right now. And they're just hoping and praying they can throw anything at it, including a guilty verdict on something that doesn't even exist. He didn't break a law, and they didn't come anywhere close to proving it.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Logging miles during the hot summer months can put a serious strain on you and your truck's health. Did you know pollutants and allergens in the air outside can enter your cab through the HVAC system without you even cracking a window? That's why it's important to check those cabin air filters. Not only do dirty cabin air filters contaminate the air you breathe, they can also cause major damage to HVAC components like blower motor resistors and AC compressors. Have your cabin air filter serviced if you notice less airflow than usual coming from the interior vents. This is a common sign that your filters are at the end of their life cycle. Breathe easy when the air in your cab is fresh.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. More on inflation. It was a zoo of a day yesterday. It just didn't stop. I want to get to at the bottom of the hour. The Pentagon admits that the U.S.-built pier to Gaza is failing to provide aid. That no aid has gotten through.
Of course.
500 metric tons of aid, all got to Hamas.
Yeah, we've been saying since the beginning, of course. Hamas controls Gaza.
And so, as you said early on, we're building a pier in order to supply Hamas.
That's right.
In Gaza.
Yep. We put in a direct port right there for here you go, Gaza. Here. It's not enough anymore that we just fund Iran or allow Iran to fund them. We also have to directly give Hamas aid.
Well, you remember you had members of Congress that were going after the military leaders were going after the Secretary of Defense, and saying, "Wait a minute, you're saying it's not boots on the ground? Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's boots on the ground adjacent because the pier is connected to the ground. But it said, well, what if they start shooting? Well, there's how you solve the problem of Hamas not shooting back not shooting at Americans.
Right.
Make sure that the aid gets to Hamas.
Yeah.
Then they have no reason.
Well, no, I mean, I thought about it then. I thought as long as the aid gets to them, then they'll show up. They might show up and help them attach the pier. I mean, it's already attached. It's already there. They might actually be helping our military. I mean, after all of the aid is going to them. Biden is helping them. Why shouldn't it be reciprocated?
bringing on the chaos. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The Department of Defense Press Secretary Major General Patrick Ryder revealed yesterday in the department's estimation, none of the over 500 metric tons of aid from the U.S.-built pier has made it to the people of Gaza. The U.S. pier was authorized by President Joe Biden's administration in an attempt to distribute aid within the war zone. In addition to aid brought in through border crossings and through airdrops, the pier was built off the coast in central Gaza. The pier has run into other severe problems before it started operating. Ryder said he did not believe that any of the aid brought through the pier has gotten to the people of Gaza, resulting in the U.S., Israel, and the United Nations having discussions for alternative routes in order for safe passages of the truck. The pier cost the U.S. over $320 million to build and has run into other severe problems before it started operating. While it was being constructed in April, the pier came under fire from mortar shells while workers were forced to find cover. No one was injured, according to the Associated Press. None of the terrorist groups in Gaza took credit for the attack. Aid going into Gaza and getting to those who need it the most has been a constant issue since the war began. Once trucks enter Gaza, they often come under attack from civilians who loot the trucks before getting to their final destination, or members of Hamas take control of the aid and hoard it for themselves. Hamas also sells the aid back to civilians at higher cost when it is not meant to be sold. Truck drivers have also been killed by mobs attacking the deliveries. Wow. I mean, you might, if it's...
How do you not see this coming?
Well, we did. We saw it coming.
It's real simple. You don't send any aid in to Gaza. It's all going to land in the hands of Hamas. They'll use it themselves, and they'll raise money with it. It's that simple. You're hurting the people of the non-Hamas people of Gaza. You're hurting them even more. All of the propaganda that Israel sent out, and they've done this repeatedly, get out when they were about to cross into Rafah. Get out. Get out. This is your last chance to get out.
And we know over 1 million have gotten out.
I can't imagine being in that situation, but there is no choice. You can't keep supporting Hamas. You can't.
I think that's a relatively good opinion to hold.
It's a pretty simple equation.
Yeah.
You're a moron if you don't see it. Or you're a radical. You either support Hamas or you don't. Stop the aid to Hamas. Stop it. Stop using taxpayer money. Stop allowing Iran to fund Hamas. Choke them out. Nope, can't have that because that's what Trump was doing, and that would be wrong. We can't do what Trump did. That would be wrong. Jack.
I want to play this yesterday. Blinken was before the Senate, and Ted Cruz got his time to ask questions. Are you ready? All right, here we go.
Senator. Mr. Secretary, you have presided over the worst foreign policy disaster of modern times. When Joe Biden became president, he inherited peace and prosperity in the world. We now have two simultaneous wars waging, the worst war in Europe since World War II and the worst war in the Middle East in 50 years. Both, I believe, were caused by this administration's consistent weakness And indeed, your foreign policy is precisely backwards from what a rational American foreign policy should be. To our friends and allies, this administration has consistently undermined, weakened, and attacked them. And to our enemies, this administration has shown constant appeasement and indeed has flowed billions of dollars to the enemies of America who want to kill us. Senator Barrasso asked you about Ibrahim Raisi. Your State Department put out a statement sending condolences for his death. Mr. Secretary, is the world better today now that Raisi is dead?
Given the horrible acts that he engaged in, both as a judge and as president, to the extent he can no longer engage in them, yes, the Iranian people are probably better off.
You didn't say that in your statement, did you?
I believe that we did. And certainly our spokesperson...
Today, the United Nations is flying their flag at half-staff to mourn the death. Would you agree that it is utterly disgraceful for the United Nations to be mourning the death of the butcher of Tehran?
We're certainly not mourning his death. As I said, we expressed...
Would you agree it's disgraceful for the UN to be?
I'll look at what they've done. We certainly would not do that.
What they've done is flown the flag at half-staff. Is that disgraceful?
We wouldn't do that, and we would certainly find that...
And I would note that's the absence of American leadership. All right, let's shift. The Washington Post on May 11th wrote an article. I'm going to read the opening paragraph. The Biden administration, working urgently to stave off a full-scale Israeli invasion of Rafah, is offering Israel valuable assistance in an effort to persuade it to hold back, including sensitive intelligence to help the Israeli military pinpoint the location of Hamas leaders and find the group's hidden tunnels, according to 4 people familiar with the U.S. offers. Is that paragraph accurate?
Exactly the opposite. First of all, no one has done more to defend Israel than Joe Biden.
Is that paragraph accurate?
Let me finish, if I may, please. He was there right after.
I'm not interested in a campaign speech. I have limited time. Is the paragraph in the Washington Post accurate?
As you read it, no. To the contrary, we're providing everything we possibly can to Israel to help them find.
So the 4 sources that briefed the Post, and by the way, briefed multiple other media outlets, they were lying?
Absolutely.
So, all right, so that, did the administration offer to provide the locations of senior Hamas leaders to Israel if they didn't invade Rafah?
That's, again, totally misleading and wrong. Here's what we've said, and here's what we're doing. We have said that there is a better way to deal with the challenge that...
I'm not interested in the speech.
If you don't want to hear my answer...
Did you offer the location of senior Hamas officials if they didn't invade Rafah? That's a yes or no.
If we had the locations, of course we'd provide them, irrespective.
So this statement, you're saying the Post got it totally wrong, it is utterly false, and anyone who said to the contrary was lying and perjuring themselves if they were under oath.
That statement is incorrect. We have done and will continue to do everything we can to, if we can do it, develop the information and share the information. I wish we had it.
Does the administration have intelligence on the locations of Hamas officials that you have not shared with Israel?
No.
Does the administration have the locations of Hamas terror tunnels that you have not shared with Israel?
No.
Okay, so then your position is that this story is an utter and complete lie.
As you've read it to me, Senator, it's not. It is not accurate.
And we're not interested in playing word games. I've asked you very directly.
I have
not. So you're saying there's not a single Hamas leader that you know about that you or the administration has offered will tell you where they are if you don't invade Rafah.
That is correct.
What have you offered them not to invade Rafah?
We've offered them nothing not to invade Rafah except a plan to deal more effectively with Rafah.
Okay, so your testimony under oath is you've offered them nothing not to invade Rafah. I find that very hard to believe, but I just want to understand what your testimony is.
I'll be very clear. We have told them, we've been engaged in a long conversation with them about the most effective way to deal with the problem we agree must be dealt with.
They are quite aware you disagree with their plan to kill the Hamas terrorists because you and the President have vocally said it. And to be clear, your State Department on the morning of October 7th sent out a tweet telling Israel not to engage in military retaliation. I called you out at 3 in the morning and you deleted that tweet. The next day, you personally on October 8th sent a tweet saying you had spoken with the Turkish foreign minister and Israel should not retaliate. From the very beginning beginning, the Biden administration has consistently at every stage told Israel, and by the way, when I called your tweet out, you deleted it again. At every stage, you have been telling Israel, do not kill the terrorist, and that has been from day one.
Senator, I was in Israel 5 days after October 7th. I've been there 7 times since. No one, starting with President Biden, has done more to make sure they have what they need to defend themselves from Hamas, to deal with the threat that Hamas poses.
With all due respect, that is ludicrous. That is ludicrous. Why have you cut off weapons to Israel then?
We have not cut off weapons to Israel. In fact, as you know well, starting many years ago, President Biden was at the heart of the MOU that led to Israel having a 10-year guaranteed supply of assistance. When you became
Secretary of State, how much oil was Iran selling a day?
I'll have to come back to you on any numbers. I don't have the numbers.
You don't know. It doesn't surprise me you don't know. It was about 300,000. How much oil is Iran selling today?
We've applied sanctions against more than 200 entities that are engaged in petrochemicals.
How much oil?
You can tell me. I'm sure.
Don't filibuster.
You know. I'm not filibustering.
How much oil are they selling today? Do you
tell
know?
me. You tell me.
Apparently you don't know. So you don't know how much they were selling. It was 300,000. Today they're selling about 2 million barrels a day. Let me ask you.
And given the sanctions, given the export controls, given the other controls we put on, the cost of doing that, the evasion that they have to engage in, which we're trying to cut off.
They've made about $80 billion. Let me ask you another question. I'm running out of time, so I'm not interested in speeches. Let me ask you this. How many Ghost Fleet ships did Iran have in November 2020?
We have sanctioned more than 200
It's a question.
of those.
I'm not. How many did they have?
The total number, I can't tell you what it had in 2021. I'll come back to you with that. But we have
the number was about 70.
Yeah,
how many did they have today?
We blocked about 50 of them.
Okay, let's see how effective you are. How many do they have today?
As I said, we blocked about 50.
How many do they have today?
You tell me. I'm sure you.
They have about over 400. Look, this administration desperately wants a new Iran deal. You have been showering cash on Iran from day one. And understand, the $6 billion you were asked about is the tip of the iceberg. By refusing to enforce oil sanctions, we have seen Iran's oil sales go from 300,000 barrels a day when you got into office to over 2 million barrels a day today. That's $80 billion. 90% of Hamas's funding comes from Iran in a very real sense. This administration, you and President Biden, funded the October 7th attacks by flowing $100 billion to a homicidal, genocidal regime that funded those attacks.
There you go.
Pretty clear picture.
Well, it's interesting. Well, we've done everything. Well, you're the one we brought back the tweets, both the State Department and then Blinken personally telling Iran not to strike back. Well, if you tell them not to strike back, you're telling them not to kill terrorists. And now you're telling me that you're telling Israel, every single leader, where you believe they are so they can go and attack them. Again, this is a administration that pathologically lies. And the entire thing with funding it and then saying, well, the sanctions. Well, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Iran wouldn't be selling 2 million barrels a day if they're not going to produce it if they can't make a profit off of it.
Right.
And the ghost fleets, as we know, which are, the tankers out there delivering it, there's way more than there was before. And they know it. U.S. intelligence knows where every damn ship is in the world.
It's again, they want you to believe, well, we're making it really tough. Choke them out. Yeah. You can't do what Trump was doing because Trump was doing it. That's your commander in chief. He'll be damned if he ever does something right because Trump was doing it. This is who he is. The border's wide open for a reason.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. God. Coming up, more on the defense resting yesterday and what's going to happen. We now have a delay, of a week.
Yeah.
Everybody's off till next Tuesday.
Right.
We will get to that. I thought this was an interesting article because it really is true. Trump's biggest blessing: Democrats only listen to themselves, and that's true.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. Yeah.
We've made the point, but in different ways.
Right.
But that headline is absolutely blunt and direct.
Yeah.
They only because we've talked about living in the bubble of today or whatever, or not really. Who was it? Was it Joy Behar who said, well, if she wishes to criticize Biden, she doesn't do it because she doesn't want anybody not to vote for Biden.
Right.
Well, we've talked about this a lot. I don't care what the issue is. Whatever the issue is, when Trump was under investigation, all the conservative media covered it.
Yeah.
You don't have the censoring in conservative media like you do with the mainstream media that just won't cover something.
Right.
We'll get to that coming up.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Just want to address one email that we got from Maria yesterday. And it's in regards to we had played the cut. Bill Maher making his tour, got a book out and everything else, making his tour of the media the last couple of days, and was on the Greg Gutfeld night show. And came on and started talking about the fact that he won't vote for Trump because Trump is a threat to democracy, because he is an election denier, and that he never conceded the election, and that's why, and so therefore he is a threat to democracy. And we said Gutfeld should have struck back a lot harder than he did. And he did not. And we just said he should have. When you're in the arena of ideas, you strike back, and you hit him hard, as we had said. And we went through and said, what are you talking about? Threat to democracy. Let's talk about the lawfare that's going on now that you recognize. Let's talk about the fact of Hillary Clinton denying the election. Let's talk about 2000. Let's talk about, and we just went through the entire thing. I don't want to rehash the same argument yesterday. And we said Gutfeld should have done a better job. And Marie writes and says, Dear Gary and Ed.
Oh, where is Ed? Why isn't he here this morning?
Dear Gary.
That's weird. He's always here.
Dear Gary and Ed.
I got Eric and Derek last week. Hey, Eric and Derek.
Derek. Wait, there's not even a G in there anywhere.
Hey, Eric and Robert. What? It's not even what? I get it all the time.
The best one was when I used to say, quickly, Eric and Gary. Someone said,
is he saying arrogant Gary?
Who's saying arrogant Gary?
Arrogant? Is he calling himself arrogant Gary?
The email from Maria. Dear Gary and Ed, love the show. Of course, Gutfeld can destroy Bill Maher any day of the week, but that's not what he was there for. Hang on here. Okay. Therefore, the show format is not to spend time debating issues. Each guest has a minute or two to comment or make a joke about a headline and then move on to the next one. Gutfeld and Maher are friends, and he invited him to plug his book. He wasn't going to take a half hour to debate one issue. On the 5, yes, the purpose is to debate. His night show is not that. It's comedy. You guys got so worked up that Gutfeld let Bill Maher get away with something. Wrong take, but I love your show. No, it's a right take. When you're in the arena of ideas, whether it's joking or not, And that's what Fox News is, and that's what Gutfeld is all the time. When that, it was the same thing. Remember when Jon Stewart went after the old Tucker Carlson show back on CNN.
Yeah.
Remember?
Right.
And then when they attacked him, he just said, "I'm just a comedy show." It's like, sorry, you get in the arena of ideas, then you debate.
Yeah, coming up in the next half hour, we're going to have our friend Joy Behar on, who, not indirectly, but kind of admitted that she does sometimes quietly criticize Joe Biden. And so we're going to have her on and talk to her, and we're going to just tell some jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Stop it.
No, because here's the thing.
Yeah, you're in the arena of ideas.
I understand the difference between the Five and Gutfeld's late night show, and Gutfeld is killing it on his late night show. It's not the point. Because it doesn't change. It doesn't matter what you do when you do it. You're there for a specific purpose. And yeah, it is supposed to be a little more comedy later at night because it's Gutfeld's show solo and it's not an entire panel. And that's the entire point, though, is either he believes it or he doesn't. You don't take it off and go, well, I just, when I was on the Five earlier, I meant it. What I said a bunch of stuff in it. No, you either mean it or you don't. And so you either believe it or you don't. And I don't know about their relationship and their friendship, and that's between them. But I don't have a space. I don't have a place for that. I don't like engaging in that. I don't need to be anybody's bro.
Yeah, and that was our point. I can be a friend and still criticize you severely and say you're full of it.
Yep.
And then point out why you're wrong. And by the way, we did that and probably did it within 2 minutes. So to sit there and that's the point, Marie. You said a half hour. Nobody said take a half hour to debate him.
No.
You can do it very, very quickly in a minute or two, as we did on the show.
Well, and it's not just Gutfeld. I mean, that was one example. It just seemed to be that here lately, everybody is kind of folding Bill Maher into the conservative group, and they did that a number of times. They do it at times with Rogan, and there are things that Rogan says that I agree with, observations that he makes that I agree with, and others that kind of literally off the planet. And those are the things. Again, those are his takes. Rogan's not the opinion, the person that's there to necessarily issue that opinion. People have been taking notice of him because he criticizes the left. He goes after, he's had all the people on from the Twitter files, and I think that's great. I think that kind of exposure is great. I think the purpose for his show or what he's doing with some of his shows is great. It's that kind of exposure to these problems is critical to the discussion because I do believe long term that changes things, but it doesn't necessarily define who Joe Rogan is. Well, Gutfeld and other people who issue opinions quite often then get into this whole arena of, it's the difference between Bill Maher's HBO show and then his podcast digital show where they smoke whiskey and drink cigars. Or however you do it. I don't know. I'm not cool, but I don't sit in front of wood paneling. And the entire idea of this, let's put some sunshades on and smoke a cigar and drink some whiskey and that's all for show. That's all
right.
For it's this idea. I get what they say they're trying to do, but I don't get, again, it's not part of what you and I do. Well, you and I can make a joke in a segment while making a serious point. In fact, we most often do that, and we do it on every show at least a couple of times, and you can do, Gutfeld is very good at doing that. And it's not necessarily, again, just Gutfeld who's kind of folding Maher into because we've been very clear. We do the same thing. We make jokes, but we also make serious points. And we've been very clear from the beginning when Bill Maher started to, make this pivot or starting to grapple or whatever he's doing. We said he's part of building the left and making it what it is today. And I've never heard him say, you know what, there was a time when I was, saying these things, and I was flat out wrong about those things, and there's no way around it. I was wrong. For whatever reason, I was blinded. I didn't see that where it was going to end or how this was going. I didn't acknowledge this. But the reason he doesn't say that is because Bill Maher needs to be popular. Bill Maher needs to carry that torch of I'm an independent and I don't, I will criticize the right and the left. Well, the problem with that is that you end up really, you issue opinions, but no one really knows what you truly think.
Well, for Gutfeld, it's simple. You're in the arena of ideas, whether it's a comedy show or not. You're on Fox News. That's it's the arena of ideas. They're not sitting there discussing sports. They're not a sports show.
Right.
They're a political comedy show, and so they address it. Bill Maher did the book tour to promote one thing, that Donald Trump cannot be elected because Donald Trump did not concede the election, and he is the biggest threat to democracy out there.
Right.
And that's a load of horse manure.
Right.
Based on the fact that we saw what he did when he was in office 4 years, and we've seen what this administration has done, and we went point by point by point to show how he was wrong. Bill Maher made the point on Gutfeld. Gutfeld did not give what we viewed as the slam dunk answer that he should have given. And if you're saying that Bill Maher should be able to say whatever he wants, that's a load of horse manure. And, well, you're friends and you don't strike back because it's a comedy show. Well, we would disagree with it. You're in the arena of ideas. You strike back. Here's one right here. All right, let's go. He was on Megyn Kelly. Right now, here's how Megyn Kelly did it. Doesn't take a half hour to do it. Here we go, and this is on January 6th, all right? Yeah, here we go, right. Bill Maher and Megyn Kelly.
I think on January 20th, 2025, he'll show up at the White House, whether he's invited or not. And I don't think that's going to be good.
He's gonna bomb in if he lost?
Yes. Oh, yeah, bomb is a word I wouldn't even throw around lightly.
Oh, stop it. He's not going to do that.
Right, like there was never an attack on the Capitol, Megan.
I hear you, but he's not going to show up at the inauguration.
Like they didn't show up at the Capitol and break windows and knock down doors and kill cops and chase.
They didn't do that.
And they didn't break windows,
they didn't kill cops.
They of course did.
No, they didn't.
Who did? They died of natural causes that day?
Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, the medical examiner, has determined that he suffered 2 strokes and died of natural causes.
Yeah, nobody died that day.
Cops?
No, not true. Who?
Okay.
Who?
Oh, I don't remember the names.
They didn't. There was Brian Sicknick, who died later after the fact.
Of natural causes. See, this is what you do. They're having a friendly conversation and joking and everything else. She makes the point. This is the. I'm trying to see here if I've get this one right. Okay, this is on very quickly on election denying. Okay, here we go. All right.
Hillary Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
First of all, she came out before the sun had risen.
Okay, that's not true.
No.
Okay, that's good. Let's go.
Concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an illegitimate president.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
Okay, I mean, she conceded the election. Whether you're interpreting her disappointment at losing it as the same thing as Trump not conceding it, I don't know if that's where you're getting it from. But again, it's a tremendous false equivalency. You could ask Hillary Clinton right now who won that election. She will tell you. Donald Trump won the election.
Now she knows she has to because of what Trump has done.
She came out that night.
She conceded the...
She did not come out that night.
She went home, Bill.
Right.
We were here live covering it.
Right, but this is where she throws this in at the end. Here we go.
Purple suit and conceded the election.
Correct. And then spent the next 4 years trying to convince us it was not legitimate.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
There you go. Yep. So Bill Maher's trying to make the point that the concede is the entire thing of why he would not vote for Trump. That's the basis of why he would not vote for Trump. And the entire thing is, okay, you believe that Trump is a threat to democracy because of that? Well, then that's what we said yesterday. You can just pound him on that, and Gutfeld didn't do it. And Gutfeld's fine with me. I think he makes some great points. But don't give excuses. You're in the arena of ideas. Debate.
Yep.
And you can debate in a funny way. They're laughing. They're joking. And Megyn Kelly made the slam dunk points against Bill Maher.
Right. Yeah, it's, and again, he's lying about things, clearly doesn't know what's going on.
Either he doesn't know or he's lying.
One of the two.
Yeah.
But he's stating something that's false. So, we were here that night. Hillary went home. There were reporters inside the Hillary campaign headquarters that said she was throwing things, she was angry. And by the way, she herself came out later and talked about how she spent days on the couch sobbing.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per-gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per-mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I want to play one more cut here from the Megyn Kelly and Bill Maher thing. And this will start because of the email that we got when we criticized just a little bit Greg Gutfeld for not pounding on Bill Maher a couple of days ago when he was on the show. Listen how just understanding a little bit of the facts, and you can get Bill Maher to evolve within 5 seconds. All right, here we go.
But you bypass the immigration question. I mean, like that.
I'm not
a lot
bypassing
of
it. I think it's a disaster.
How would you put this guy back in there for 4 more years to leave the doors open?
And like it was so much better under Trump?
Yes, it was better under Trump. Are you kidding me?
It was somewhat better.
Oh, Bill.
It was somewhat better.
Go look up the immigration rates.
Yeah, I know.
Illegal immigration rates.
I agree.
For 2020, for 19 to 20.
I'm not defending Biden on immigration.
You just did.
Yeah, you did.
You just did. You just said it wasn't that much better under Trump.
Well,
now I would have said quickly, well, yeah, because the Democrats sued him for everything to stop him from doing what he wished to do with the border. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the other point too. But the fact is, but to say it wasn't that much better under Trump. Of course it was.
Well, it's this conundrum that you put yourself in, Bill, when you want to walk that fence. Walking the fence is hard. I criticize both sides. Yeah, but you got to get to the facts. The facts don't care about sides. The truth doesn't care about a side. And again, we get into this, we go back to the comment about Trump. We called Bush and the other guys Hitler, but this guy, Trump, really is Hitler.
Like I said, that's why we go issue by issue by issue by issue by issue, and you cannot defend when you look. And the whole thing is, the whole point is, Bill Maher doesn't really want to talk about the issues that the American public sees as a problem with Democrats and Biden.
Right.
The fact that, and as we've said before, they won't and can't solve the problems because they created the problems.
Mm-hmm.
He's simply trying to say that Trump wants to end the democracy and Biden doesn't.
Right.
Which is a load of horse manure.
Right.
So don't let him try to sell that is our point. I don't care whether you're a comedy show, a conservative comedy show, or whatever. If he comes on and says that, call him on it. That's our point.
Well,
that's a fair point to make.
Well, it's and because there is no point in building an allegiance to any of the people aside from your friends and family. And, saying, well, Gutfeld is friends with Bill Maher. All right. I've had friends that have asked me, hey, man, let me come on your show. Let me call in. And I've told them flat out, you might not want to do that. I mean, if you're going to debate, we're going to have a serious debate. I mean, this isn't friends sitting around having a beer, smoking whiskey and drinking a cigar.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I remember when, you and I got into discussions, this goes back years ago, about speed limiters for trucks.
Yeah.
Big trucks.
Yeah.
The Senate in California has just passed the first-in-the-nation legislation to require all new vehicles to be equipped with passive speed governors, alerting drivers when they exceed 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. Now, what does it mean, alerting drivers?
Yeah,
it's a governor. It's not alerting. It's slowing you down at that point.
Well, it depends on the level of the governor. There can be everything from an alert to actually taking over and slowing the vehicle down. It just depends on the level.
Well, they're not saying notification. They're saying passive speed governors.
Right, but they said alert, right?
Right, but a governor governs the engine. It's not an alert.
Well, a full governor would. Are they saying this one will go to if you don't respond to the alert?
I'm just reading what it says here from his tweet. I'll go look at it. I just saw this before we came on the air, so I didn't get to do any research on it at all. So,
yeah,
we always wondered what's the response going to be from the public. And remember, I mean, something that the public doesn't know. It's already, what was it? Was it which bill was it? The Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure. I forgot which one it was that made it so 2026 vehicles. Get ready to buy your 2025 vehicle because in 2026 you may have lasers and cameras and everything looking at your face to see if you're distracted at all, which then will shut down your vehicle.
Well,
or something like that. They're not sure of it because they're not sure what technology they're going to use or how far it's going to go, but
they're already running into problems now with the vehicles now. You know how you have a distance alert on your dash and lane departure warnings, things like that. And you also have with most, if not all OEMs now, you have a subscription level. So like if you want to use your full GPS, and they always fold it into the entertainment like satellite radio or whatever, they kind of, you get everything. And then so you decide which tier you want to be in. But if you subscribe to that, then your OEM has the information, the data from your vehicle, and the insurance companies want that data. Mm-hmm. Now, it's private sector, it's not government, but there's already this backlash going, whoa, because remember the push, actually it's still on right now, where, hey, we'll give you this dongle to put in your car, you plug it in, and then you prove to us that you're a good driver. We're going to monitor that data, and you're going to do this, voluntarily. Well, they're done doing it voluntarily. Now they want to, it would still be voluntary if the OEMs are giving it up. Now, there's reports saying that some of the OEMs do give up that information.
Yes.
And when you sign to that subscription, you agree to share that with third parties. And that includes the insurance companies that say, oh, it looks like your lane departure warning comes on way too much. Your distance warning comes on too much.
You're hitting your brakes too hard.
Too hard.
That came up as the most frequent one, hitting your brakes hard. But who hasn't done it when you're coming up to a red light and that light goes and in your mind you go, okay, I got to hit it because I don't want to go through. And so you hit your brakes hard.
Mm-hmm.
That could work against you in your insurance payments, yet you're just being safe and caught in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens quite frequently. You know, you're going down the road, all of a sudden, boom, there's a light. You go, I can't make it. And you hit the brakes harder.
Well,
and what is it, as somebody brought up, what does that mean, hitting your brakes harder? What is the benchmark for hitting your brakes harder?
Right. Because it's not always indication of, so if I were traveling on a highway and I saw a dog or a person, and I mean, I don't know, a quarter of a mile darting across the highway, which is not something you would normally see, say, on an interstate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would freak me out. And I just might hit my brakes. I might, even early, nowhere close to that, might do that. Or a child when you're in a neighborhood and you're going 20 miles an hour and all of a sudden a ball rolls out in front of you. Well, you know a child's going to be right behind that, quite possibly right behind that ball. You're going to hit your brakes hard.
Or if you see a couple of deer that might be, 1,000 feet in front of you that run across, and you could sit there and say, well, I'm safe. But the first thing I'm thinking of is, if there's 2 deer that just crossed the road, there may be 10 that are closer to me. So I hit my brakes in order to make sure that I have enough response time at that point. And so you could be judged on that also.
I've hit a deer before, and it's not pleasant.
Oh, I haven't.
It is not pleasant.
I mean, but I've seen 50 deer cross the road. A couple of deer came out, and then and this was on a pretty major road. This was up in New York a few years back.
Yeah.
And I can still remember there were probably 10, 12 cars in front of me, and these deers were running in between the vehicles.
Yeah.
And, people were hitting their brakes left and right.
Well,
and so that was the one question. Well, and the one person was asking, and they said, you're hitting your brakes too hard.
Yeah.
He goes, what's the context of hitting my brakes too hard?
Right.
What does that mean? You're charging me more, and now that goes against me, and I don't know what the situation was or what your standards for hitting the brakes too hard are.
There was a trooper that saw me hit that deer, and I was freaking out because the deer was in midair when I hit it. And I thought maybe it was still alive. What do I do? Are they going to need to come dispatch this deer so it doesn't suffer? And this trooper came up, and I pulled over. And then the trooper came up behind me and said, I saw that. And I said, I had pulled on to this shoulder. And the trooper walked up and I said, I don't know what else I could do. And he said, well, you could start by not driving through an open field. And that would be number one. But I mean, there are so many things, so many surprises, and to me, obviously, and I think to everybody, the ultimate concern would be driving through a neighborhood, and then I live in a school zone. I've lived in a school zone for 20 years, and it always freaks me out. It just absolutely, with kids walking on the sidewalk, but any neighborhood, school zone or not, a ball rolls out and you expect that child to dart out. And when you're driving and there are cars parked on the side of the road, in the street, and you can't see on the other side. I drive a pretty large pickup. Pickups are higher profile, like a lot of SUVs and pickups. And so I'm always extra careful, and I don't mind hitting my brake really hard if it's safe to do that, and certainly going to be safer and just out of an abundance of caution and going to be safer for everybody involved. Here's the question. Here's the question for when the state gets involved, when the federal government gets involved. How far you want to go with it? Because do you want a full-on governor? I mean, if this is in California, ultimately leading to them doing a full-on control of the vehicle, you're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. Now, the good news is in Los Angeles, traffic moves at about 3 miles an hour. So you don't have to worry about it. You'll never go above 10 miles an hour. But if you're buying a vehicle, and if they're saying, all new vehicles, well, pretty soon what they'll say is, just like they did with big rigs on emissions, well, we're going to outlaw using the older vehicles. We're going to outlaw doing that. But the question is, do they think they can get away with that with the consumer? You and I talked about it when we were talking about governors for big rigs. Well, are you going to try this with passenger vehicles?
Okay, I don't think they should be calling them passive speed governors because a governor governs the engine. Well, it should be a speed limit alert because I'm looking at the bill right now. Passive speed governors, also referred to as passive intelligence speed assistance, will be required on all vehicles sold in the EU beginning in July of this year. SB 961 requires the devices to warn drivers with audio and visual signals when they exceed the speed limit by greater than 10 miles an hour. In line with the NTSB recommendations, SB 961 requires every passenger vehicle, truck, and bus manufactured or sold in the state of California to be equipped with speed governors that warn speeding drivers to slow down by 2032 with audio and visual signals. SB 961 speed governor requirements does not apply to emergency vehicles. So I'm confused here because a speed governor slows down your vehicle. It would be a warning light goes on if you're over 10 miles an hour. Yeah. The intelligence warning system is what I would call it. By calling it governors.
It's an alert system. It's not a governor.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have the ability to control the vehicle, it's not a governor.
One of the things on my vehicle that if a car in front of me is taking an off-ramp and they're of no threat to me at all, I will have my the big, because I've got everything in my windshield, the brake, and it will start braking itself very hard. I'm not doing it, and there's no reason for the vehicle to be doing it at that point.
No, there's been a concern with a number of things. Lane avoidance and the sound of the warnings, the sound being off-putting to a lot of people, so they turn it off. And they're like, okay, how do we do this and make it user-friendly to where they'll use it but won't be annoyed by it? Well, that's a question that you'll never be able to fully answer because most people will say, yeah, I'm still turning it off. It's like the auto stop engine thing where they think they're saving fuel. You go to a stop sign, and you hit the brake in a certain way. And mine is governed by the temperature outside. So if it's, very extremely cold, it won't do it. If it's extremely hot, it won't do it. And I can't stand it. There is a way to bypass it. There is a program you can use to. I wouldn't recommend it because you could void the warranty on the vehicle. But and then you've got a bypass that you have to turn on. You have to turn on the bypass or turn the feature off proactively every time you restart the vehicle.
I had that in a rent-a-car.
Yeah,
the feature, because I didn't know if they had the feature. And it's like, oh no,
yeah, almost all the new ones
have the feature,
now.
right?
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah,
and
I hate it. Yeah.
I hate that because on my 21-year-old vehicle right now, the starter's never gone.
Right.
Now think about how many times that starter
is every stop sign. Yeah,
every single stop, every single stop
First
light.
thing I thought of.
And it's just like, oh man, and I also don't like. I wonder about the engineering, that they have in the vehicles now, where if you're running, all of a sudden it will just run 2 cylinders and not 4.
Oh no! That's something that GM had a problem with a number of their vehicles
Yeah.
where because, we got to make it more efficient. What do? Make the vehicle much lighter. Okay, well, that doesn't sound safe. And then beyond that, what do? Well, we'll just shut down a couple of the cylinders. You can't do that. It's not designed to do that. And when you do that, expect to have problems.
Those two things I look at, I go, oh, God, get me a car that doesn't have either of those.
Right.
Or I'm just, and I don't know if I can get one.
Well,
anymore.
now they're going to this new, again, it's not new hybrid technology, but it's new for passenger vehicles. And it's what they've been using on locomotives, where there is a motor inside the vehicle. The motor's only job is to charge the battery. That's it. It doesn't drive the vehicle. It has no connection to the operation of the vehicle beyond the battery itself. It only charges the battery, which is what locomotives do. But again, the question is, all right, what's the battery replacement cost, and how long is the life of the battery?
I don't like unnecessary redundancy.
Right.
It's stupid.
We've been doing this okay with no problem until, the world's going to end in 10 years. No, it's not.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. A couple of things coming up. Still, another comment I want to make on this whole, they're not actually, from what I can tell, speed governors on cars in California, but warning signs. But just a little bit more on that coming up. Plus, we talked about McDonald's having the $5 value meal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the individual franchise owners are saying, we can't afford that.
Right.
We can't afford to do that. Inflation is too bad. You need to give us money to do this.
Right. If we're gonna have a lost leader, you're gonna have to kick in for it.
And the defense has rested in the Trump trial. We'll have the latest on that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just throw out this news out there because I used to live in this county in Oregon.
Yeah.
District Attorney Mike Schmidt is out. Soros DA got elected 4 years ago. 77% of the vote in Multnomah County, which is Portland.
Yeah. Wow.
Lost by 15 last night to one of his own senior deputy attorneys who, anti-crime groups, police unions endorsed. And so from 77%, he lost a ton of votes, but I think still he had like 42, 43% of people that would vote for him, that still voted for him. But one of his own senior deputy attorneys, Nathan Vazquez, ran against him and beat him. And that's good. You know, he ran the same thing as to end mass incarceration and racial disparities and everything else. 77% of the vote he got 4 years ago.
You know, we talked about, was it yesterday on the show, we covered the fact that insiders in Alvin Bragg's office in New York were not happy with the way things were going down there.
The one guy used to work in his office was on Fox yesterday.
Yeah.
We played the audio.
Right. And so could you see something similar there? I mean, it would be another Democrat that would win, but are there, and whether it's in New York or anywhere else, I mean, is this an indication that other Democrats, other liberals are going, look, this is going way, way too far? Portland is a situation where, this, we talk about series of failed experiments. Wow.
Yeah.
But New York too. I mean, they didn't go full on, decriminalize drugs and everything else. They just decriminalized theft and almost decriminalized using a gun during a robbery. I mean, so it is this radical approach, and then going after your political enemy. If you're there and if you're in that job, even if as a liberal, and again, I'm trying not to build a unicorn here, but you are of the mindset of, look, I want to do the job to do the job, and enforce the law. I don't want to use this office. I don't think the office should be used to go after political enemies and everything else, and also give deference to the criminals. There's some work to be done, but Bragg has gone way too far, or whoever it might be in some of these positions of power. I don't know. I don't have long-term hope. This could be just one of those anomalies, or not an anomaly in that, again, Portland with its series of failed experiments, and that whole attitude of that we've talked about, not just Portland, Seattle, and other areas, and their failed experiments. We've been asking since the beginning of all that with Chad and Chop and all of this. We were thinking, well, what do the locals actually think in towns like Portland, Seattle, and all of these, again, failed experiments where the liberals are just, well, okay, we'll just give them their space. Okay, we'll just give them their drugs. Okay, well, the fact of the matter is that you can't do that. There has to be law and order. And the people of those cities want law and order. One of the first things that happened with Michael Rappaport, the actor who was decidedly and very clearly on the left, if not far left, for the longest time, one of the first rants you saw on social media as he started to pivot was him showing the video of people. I think he shot some of the video. I think he was at a store or something. I could be wrong about that. Maybe it was video that he shared. But I seem to remember he had been on the street and caught something on video. Again, I could be wrong about that. And then posted about it and said, the criminals are getting away. And it was people looting stores, getting away with that. And during that whole thing in New York City. And we said, well, look, he's definitely not alone. We don't know how many liberals are pivoting, but certainly almost none of them appreciate that kind of crime going, and I say almost, none of them appreciate that crime going through the roof. You sit back and you watch it, and you wonder, well, my gosh, how am I going to continue to live here? I have a friend who loves living in New York. He lives in Queens. He loves it. He says, I'll never move. He said, but man, it's such a different decision-making process now, when you travel through the city. He said, I'll always be here. I'm never going to move. My family's here. And there are a lot of families, like, anchor families, where you're not going to get up and move. Like my wife and I would not get up and leave Texas. We wouldn't get up and just move because our kids and grandkids are here. It's, we're kind of anchored here as a family. Thank God. I love where I live, and my state it loves law and order. We've got a lot of problems with our whole energy infrastructure, and maybe we'll iron that out one day. But we're a great state to live in, I believe, and a lot of people are living in places where it's just becoming less affordable. Whether it's the crime rate, the cost of government, all of the above, California, New York, and other areas, and they're having to make these really tough decisions. And I can't imagine. It's got to be heartbreaking when you do realize, especially the younger generations of those families say, I can't stay here until I'm retired, because there's no telling what the chaos will be by then.
You know, I've talked about, you know, you and I both don't pay for commercials on YouTube, and how much I watch different things on YouTube. And I've mentioned this before. One of the things I loved watching, and I hadn't checked it out in a few months, was a guy by the name of Cash Jordan. And he used to do YouTube videos of all different apartments that are available in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, from the cheapest, smallest apartment. I mean, one time I think he went into a closet, and it was like, oh, this is like $1,200 a month. I mean, it was like a large closet.
Yeah.
To, you know, $20 million apartments or condos or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it just the other day. I said, wonder what he's up to. I haven't it hasn't come across naturally, like his, you know, just, you know, appeared on my news feed or my video feed. The last 6 months, everything he's been doing, he's not even, I couldn't find one. Now, it only took about a minute to look, but I couldn't find one where he was showing a apartment. Everything he's doing now is about how New York is going downhill.
Yeah.
He did a beautiful one on electric vehicles yesterday. I was amazed because he went from doing the apartment, and he went through the infrastructure. He goes, how are they going to do this here? He said, on these streets, he goes, they're going to tear up all these sidewalks and put chargers, people don't have driveways. How do you do it? You can't do it in a big city.
Right.
And he went through, it was extensive, and I went, whoa.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to watch the rest of them that he's doing, but everything is on the decline of New York. And before you say, well, this is a guy who was just negative, completely, I've been watching him the last couple of years, everything is about, you know, the great apartments are available, great neighborhoods, what you have there. I mean, he, to me, was one of the biggest promoters of New York City, and I think it just got too much for him.
Well, you know, and he makes some good points on the infrastructure and how it would work and how you would navigate that and what you would have to do. And then I go back, because I always think of your stories about the blizzard of 77 and how, you know, during heavy snow, you don't park in the street because the plow's got to come by, right? They'll bury your car. And they did during the blizzard of 77, as you've told us many times. And then you think about, okay, all right, you really got to park in the driveway. Well, okay, now so you're going to park in the driveway, but you got to have two chargers because you got two vehicles because you both work, or you got roommates.
Well, they don't have, the problem is these cities don't have driveways. They were built before cars.
And those cities that don't have driveways, then you have I mean, I'm trying to think here. There's actually there's a few towns I can think of that fall in that, where it's, again, you've got the streets where you still pull up kind of almost like you're going to tie a horse out front. That kind of approach. And I remember growing up, you know, we would travel through these towns and, you know, and people may say, well, those towns are dying anyway. And no, you got to think of the entire infrastructure when you're talking about a mandate. Because then we think of, you know, things like right now, the big, and it has been for years. I mean, it goes back to Obama. Well, you know, not everybody has the internet, and we got to work on that. We got to make sure that everybody has the internet. It's like, all right. Now we got to make sure everybody has the ability to charge a vehicle. Because if you're going to outlaw the internal combustion engine, which eventually you're going to have to do, then you've got to make sure every town, every spot has shore power. Tell me how you do that.
Well, it's not going to happen because you cannot mandate something that people don't want, can't afford, and the infrastructure is not set up And I mean, not just the infrastructure for chargers, but the infrastructure for the actual power, the fuel to power the vehicles will not be there. I mean, this is, when you think about it, when you just sit back and look at it, we're a bunch of idiots. We elect a bunch of idiots, and we're okay with electing a bunch of idiots.
Oh, no, we are.
That sit there like first graders going, well, I want a world that is just perfect, and so go do it. Okay, go do it. Yeah, but you're not thinking about this. We don't care. We're just putting in the mandates. You think about all the destruction that is being caused by electric vehicles, even economically speaking. I don't believe, nobody's ever done this, but what is the economic impact of building electric vehicles? What is the economic impact on a society of building, which is the second most costliest thing that people buy is vehicles? When you start with the mandate to promote government subsidies for a product that people don't want, but you're going to force it down their throat, they can't afford it. The infrastructure, and I mean both the chargers and the actual electricity, isn't there, and they can't make a damn cent on these things, even with your taxpayer dollars going into it. I would like to see someone do it, because economically speaking, that is a drag on the economy.
Oh, yeah.
When you produce, when government mandates a product, well, look at the old Soviet Union.
Yeah.
We control all the businesses. We tell you what we're going to buy. Oh, our currency's worth manure. Well, there's a reason.
Well, and
you don't produce anything that anybody wants.
Well, and when you outlaw energy, I mean, because think about that. You're outlawing energy. They made the move. Biden administration made the move on a lizard in West Texas just the other day, and the story focused on, well, the lizard is dying off because of oil production, and now it's an endangered species.
I bet you that's a lie.
Of course it's a lie.
That's a lie.
They've done it before. Doesn't stop liberal administrations because they see the private sector succeeding in the Permian Basin. And by the way, they're not always succeeding there. The ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of success in the Permian Basin are legendary. But you can't have that. Can't have it anymore. And so now, when you have this idea of, okay, we can't afford all these vehicles, nobody's going to buy the vehicles. Well, Ray LaHood, listen, we know you don't want to be in the vehicle, and you know what? For the younger generation, Ray LaHood is being proven right. We don't want to own vehicles. We don't want to own homes anymore. We want to rent. We want to use, right now it's Uber. Well, what if, the government will have its own transportation system, a public transportation system for everyone, everywhere, all EVs, self-driving vehicles. Nobody will own a vehicle. You can take my truck from my cold, dead hands.
Well, I'll be dead when that happens.
Yep.
I keep thinking with all the monitoring and the distracted driving technology and governors coming, I'm thinking to myself, I need to buy a 2025 and then not live as long as my father.
Drive it like you stole it. That's what I always say.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. When we were talking about all the technology coming in cars to monitor you, one of the things, when coming in 2026, and then the California thing of having, they're calling them speed governors, but they're not passive speed governors. Governor actually stops, slows down an engine. These are just warning signs, but you just wonder as you mentioned, Ray LaHood, who was Obama's transportation secretary, said our goal is to coerce people out of vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And the more expensive that we make it, whether it's electric or not, gets people out of vehicles. And what they want is they want them into public transportation. We know now that many young people don't want a vehicle because it's too expensive and too much of a hassle. They just don't want one. They'd rather live in the city and not own an automobile, where in our generation it was like, that's freedom. And I started thinking one of the things with all the technology they're putting in cars to monitor you as to whether you're a distracted driver or whatever, and all the problems that could happen. Even beyond that, the car for most people in our generation is freedom, but also privacy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to be in a subway system.
Nope.
I'd want to drive my vehicle where I've got my entertainment is what I want.
Right.
The temperature in the car is exactly what I want.
I don't even fully feel that privacy if I'm renting a car while on vacation.
Yes.
I don't feel that because I'm fully aware at all times that it's not my vehicle, and that, of course, and they should be monitoring the movement of the vehicle and everything else. And I know they can do that with mine, but I have ways to work around that. And there are... Okay, so I've covered my entire truck in foil, but that's as far as I'm going. But, you're right. I feel that, like, when I got into my new truck I bought earlier this year, I thought, okay, this is going to take some getting used to. It's a little higher profile, a little bit bigger than the truck I had before. I was like, okay, all right. And then now I found myself yesterday thinking, oh, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to move on to another truck. You know what I mean? You get to where you feel whatever your vehicle is, you get comfortable in it, and you're comfortable driving it, and you get used to it, and then you have that privacy.
I love my 21-year-old vehicle. I absolutely love it. I love the way that it drives. I love how simple it is. I have a cassette player and a CD player in my radio that broke a long time ago. And I'm actually happy with the cigarette lighter little FM, radio thing that my phone can play off that.
I love older vehicles.
I'm happy with it. And I'm like, this thing has very little technology, and I'm happy with it.
Exactly.
They want all their loans forgiven. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
Well, wait a minute. No, I don't have any.
Yeah, now that I don't have debt.
Can it be retroactive for all the loans I paid before?
Well, I really never had much debt, though. Even for vehicles. I think last time I paid. Let me see. Trying to think. It's been a long time since I haven't paid cash for a vehicle.
Yeah.
I just learned to save up, and for my dad got me to do that. He goes, the only debt, your house.
Mm-hmm.
And
I only did it when money was cheap, and so if interest rates were higher, nope. I just didn't want to pay that much for borrowing money, but and mortgage rates. Man, I was looking at mortgage rates the other day. And, there was a day when 7% was like, and it's been a while, but 7% was like, that's good. That's
what a bargain.
Right? It's better than 8 or whatever. And I remember those days years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I remember one time we refied, did a streamline on one property for 4 1/4. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is great. We did a streamline down to a 10-year mortgage on 4 1/4, and we just thought we hit the lottery, and we're much lower than that. And of course, we've got next to nothing left on it, and paying next to nothing every month now on interest. And I look at it, and that's the kind of the conundrum of where we are, in our age group, right? There was this. Remember the story we did a couple of months ago of the older demographics going out, and they're buying up properties. They can buy properties because they have full equity in their home,
right?
And so they can sell it and take that cash, and they have they have cash that they're paying for instead of taking out these loans at I think the average 30-year now is 7%. And younger borrowers are like, no, we're going to wait. And now more and more they're saying, we don't even know if we're going to ever buy, and it's just much different.
Yeah. One of the best things that ever happened to me, because I learned so much. I learned what not to do was getting hired as a bill collector at age 18. Before I could get into debt, I saw, and back then the number one cause of separations and divorces was money. Mm-hmm. Now it's probably politics, then money.
I think it still is money.
I think it still is money. Yeah. Yep. Still is, but that's still the number one reason. So I was blessed to get that job because you dealt with it every single day. Mm-hmm. And you dealt with, number one, the people that really wanted to pay it back, that they got into a problem, they wanted to pay it back. And then you got the people that really were the biggest for me, because what I was collecting was actually the line of credits that used to exist out there. Now they have them on credit cards. I think the last banks got rid of line of credits about 2, 3, 4 years ago.
There's still some out there.
Yeah, there's.
But you have to have a long history with the bank,
right?
And
when my bank stopped with the line of credit, all of a sudden I got the line of credit through my credit card. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, you get a line of credit, it'd be separate, and it'll be a different interest rate and everything else. Okay, well then you're just calling it a line of credit, but just putting it on my credit card. Mm-hmm. But that again was unsecured debt, and the biggest problem I had were, and I'm going to use it $24, probably people that are making $250,000 that had these huge line of credits that thought they were making $1 million.
Yeah,
they could still live a comfortable lifestyle, but they lived way, way above where they should. I never really had problems because then I also collected MasterCard. Don't think I ever collected. I can't remember if I collected car loans or not. I just can't remember. Mostly was MasterCard and then the line of credits that were a separate thing from the credit cards back then. Mm-hmm. But the people that were struggling, if you want to talk about the middle class or the lower middle class, really never had any problems with them. The people that really were, and I'm talking about personality conflicts, the people that they almost felt entitled to the debt. It was bizarre because this goes back, wow. I started at the bank 50 years ago this month. I just realized it now.
Yeah.
Because when I put it in my head, 50 years.
Do you need a nap or anything?
Do I need a nap?
Whoa!
Well, I just realized it. It just hit me right then because I was thinking, well, what year was this? And I went, it's 74. Oh, wait. It's 2024. Well, wait a minute. When did I get hired? I got hired in May. What is it? May 22nd. Oh, my God. It just hit 50. Wow, this is going to be great because I'm going to Tampa to see my buddy Jerry, who I started working at the bank 50 years ago.
Well, now there's a reason to celebrate.
Oh, we're going to party. I mean, we're going to drink each other under the table. I may have a light beer.
Yeah. Or a chocolate beer.
It's about all I can handle. No, you're right. That's right. I forgot. Mm-hmm. We got to go to Two Frogs and have their chocolate coconut beer.
Yeah, there you go.
In Tarpon Springs.
Right.
Yeah, we got to.
It's down to one frog because of layoffs. But yeah,
it's Florida. They're hopping.
Hopping. I see what you did there.
Hopping. Okay.
Yeah. That joke has no legs. What?
But
you better go. Listen, go to Florida as much as you can before you croak. Listen, we're here all night.
Maria, if you're listening, just because we're telling jokes does not mean we don't enter the arena of ideas and debate.
Yeah. And don't use the word croak in Florida. Too many old people. What?
But that was one of the best things that I ever did was becoming a bill collector because you saw what happened to people if they got in too much debt. So you just made sure, at least I did, not to ever get in it. And I don't know. I don't know if I would have. There's so many, you look back at your life and you say, if that hadn't happened, I wonder where I would have gone.
We used to actually own a service that was, and it was primarily high earners, bill-paying service. And it's not that they don't have the money. They have the money. They don't think about paying their bills. They don't want to think. And I talked to somebody who works in auto finance. This goes back a few months. And he said, because it was at a high-end dealership, and he said, most of our clientele here lease. They're very high earners. They don't want any, they're not coming in, they're not signing anything except for just a sign and drive lease. And every 2 years, they trade it out. And we go to their business, we go to their office, pick up their vehicle to service it, leave them a loaner. They don't ever come to the dealership for anything. And it's this mindset of, I won't spend my time doing that, and doing that wouldn't be a great investment for me the way that I drive a vehicle. The same thing with their bills. They don't slow down because I guess in the back of their mind, they're thinking, well, I've got all the money. I mean, if they're looking to, aside from maybe the mortgage, look, if they're looking to turn the lights off, I know how to turn them back on or whatever it is. And we found it was frustrating. And had there been a better, and we started this long before now you've got an app for everything, and you've got reminders, and you've got auto pay, and you've got everything else. And we started the business long before all those things were present, and which kind of brought on that's part of the demand, the whole auto pay thing. And it is, I don't want to think about it. It's the mindset of, look, I got the money, I just don't want to think about it. And that's what you run into. They're delinquent, but not because, again, they're getting behind on the bills.
Yeah, I had professional athletes that came down delinquent all the time, and it was just that they just didn't feel like playing it. I know one example, the late, I guess I can say it's 50 years now, but the late Randy Smith, who played for the Buffalo Braves and then the San Diego Clippers. In fact, at one point before A.C. Green broke his record, he had the most consecutive games ever played as an NBA player. He came down delinquent. I forgot. It would have been a line of credit every month.
Yeah.
And what we did was he just, you really couldn't get him much to respond. And so we just took it. He had a checking account.
Right.
And when you sign up, if you've got a delinquent account, you could tap right into the checking account and take it right out.
Right.
So finally he calls you one day. And it's like, uh-oh, Randy Smith's on the line. I'm like, oh, boy, he's going to be so ticked off. He's just taking money out of his checking account, putting it to pay for his other bills. After a certain length of time, you legally could do that.
Yeah.
He wasn't angry at all. He goes, hey, I like what you're doing. He goes, could you do that every month?
No,
well, there was no automatic pay back then.
Right.
And I said, no, I really can't do it unless you're delinquent and come down. And he goes, well, I'll just be delinquent every month. I go, but you're paying late fees and extra
they don't care.
Stuff. He didn't care.
It doesn't matter. It's better than stopping what he's doing to, spend even just a few minutes in paying, and especially back then. It wasn't like he could look, at his phone, which would have been connected to the wall, and then type something in and pay the bill. I mean, today it's so convenient, and with auto pay, you can set up auto pay for just about anything now.
And then the best one was, and I've told the story before, but it's always worth telling at least once a year, when all of a sudden I look, and you had these little cards that came in, and, before, everything's computerized now, but little cards, and that showed you their whole thing on there, cardboard, sort of cardboard kind of cards. And it was Peter Magaddino, Stefano Magaddino's son, out of Niagara Falls. Now, Stefano Magaddino was a mob boss from the Niagara Falls mob who really headed the Appalachia Conference back in the early 60s that really exposed the mob. Well, this was his son, Peter, who allegedly took over the mob and ran the Magaddino Memorial Funeral Home. So the mobsters own the funeral home. Well, his bill comes down. I got to call him. I'm an 18-year-old kid. And I always like to say that I wasn't out of puberty yet, so I can raise my voice, to sort of give you a little bit of an inside view of what the phone call was like. Hello, Mr. Magadino. You're,
hey, how you doing, little Jerry? You okay?
Hello, Mr. Magadino.
What do you need?
Your line of credit is like past due a little bit.
Well, let me ask you, Jerry. Do you like simple things like using your legs?
I sort of sounded like in Private Parts Howard Stern in his first radio job. Remember that? but he was nicest guy. Said, it's my accountant. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it came down the next month.
Have we checked on the accountant?
It came down again the next month.
Yeah.
And he was furious at his accountant.
Oh, man.
And I actually did, because he was we're going to get this settled because this isn't going to happen again. And I apologize to you. There's no reason. He don't want to be screwing with the bank. He's got people to extort and
accountants
gambling.
I'm just gonna give him a talking to. That's all I'm gonna do.
I did for about a month look in the newspaper and really paid attention to the news to see if anything happened to the
accountant.
An accountant somewhere
after quote hunting trip end quote with his boss. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so it was. But really, you think about it now with the bill paying, people just don't want to be bothered with stuff. You mentioned cars earlier. With people don't want to own cars. 60 Minutes interviewed one of the big controversies out there is, companies buying houses and renting them, saying it's driving up the cost of a house for the average consumer. But they had the guy on, CEO from one of these companies, saying, we're providing a service. Don't you understand? So many young people would rather pay more, own a home, but have no responsibility for the maintenance of that home.
Yeah, they just want to rent it,
right?
Rather than own.
He goes,
yeah.
They want to rent it. They don't want it. He goes, they don't. I'll see if I can find the audio. Because they don't want a car, they don't want to own a car, and they don't want to own a home.
Yep.
Because there's actually a market out there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, the jurors in the Trump trial have been dismissed for a week. They will be back next Tuesday when closing arguments will take place. What happened yesterday, we will get to that. Some of the analysis we'll hear from Jonathan Turley. Also, the whole thing of McDonald's and the $5 value meal. You see, Wendy said they're going to do $3.
Well, yeah, but what do you get for that $3?
A straw.
Yeah, right. And
a packet of ketchup.
An ice water size of your choice.
An ice water slushy.
An ice water slushy. It's the new thing.
No carbs, no calories.
Yeah, we'll give you a fasting menu.
The perfect summer health drink.
Exactly.
Water.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. So I had to go. I hadn't done it in a couple of days. Went to the Babylon Bee to look at some of their headlines. Ready for this?
Yeah.
Feminists warn young girls against marrying rich, muscular football stars who love them and take care of all their needs and praise them in speeches.
I love it. I love it.
Kristi Noem's husband sweating bullets after forgetting their anniversary.
Oh.
My favorite, though.
Yeah.
This is by far. Oh, well, this one was a good one, too. UN observes moment of silence for 9/11 hijackers.
Yeah. Wow. That's one of those gut punch ones, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's, who was it? Was it Ron Johnson, I think, went after Blinken? I think it was Ron Johnson. Senator Johnson went after Blinken yesterday, for the whole thing of sending our condolences. Why?
Yeah.
Well,
why?
it's what we do. Why? But this was my favorite. God is baffled that Democrats manage to ruin California.
Oh, wow.
And then Dateline Heaven. I swear to God.
Yeah.
According to sources in the celestial realm, God is scratching his head in wonderment that Democrats managed to mess up California. Quote, and this then quote. This would be a quote from God.
Yeah.
You guys were literally given everything. How do you even do that? Well, no, I'm sorry, said a spokesangel for the Almighty. You have perfect weather, beautiful coastline, great surfing, skiing in the mountains, fish tacos, rolling vineyards. The list goes on and on. How on earth did you manage to take the most beautiful stretch of land on God's earth and turn it into a huge dump? It doesn't make any sense. Sources say Democrats in California took issue with the idea that they were to blame, claiming instead that everyone else was to blame and definitely not them or anything. Yeah, it's like global warming and stuff, said Gavin Newsom to a crowd of homeless meth heads on Pier 39, and not enough taxes. If we had more taxes, things would be better.
Yeah.
Sources confirmed the host in heaven is watching in amazement as people are actually leaving the beauty of California in the millions, choosing to live instead in places like Ohio and Florida. Quote, we intended Ohio to be a place of torment for those who displease the Lord. We filled Florida with man-eating snakes and gators so mankind wouldn't live there, continued the spokesangel. But somehow Democrats have made those places actually look attractive to people. It's truly baffling. At publishing time, God had finally decided to pour out his divine wrath after finding that Democrats had figured out how to destroy fish tacos.
I love it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
One of the best things they had, though. I watched a video of it. Oh, my gosh. I mean, they are a Christian satire site.
Yeah, right, yeah.
But they had a video, Woke Jesus.
Oh.
And it's actors.
Oh, no, I saw it.
Did you see that?
Yeah, it was about a month ago. In fact, I said, it was during one of our mid-show or pre-show meetings. I said, "Oh my gosh, have you seen the video of the woke Jesus thing on Babylon?" By the way, they spend a lot of money on those things. They've got a budget for those things. You know, they're hiring very capable actors and the whole thing. They've got the costumes down. They're going out. I don't know where they're filming this, but they're spending some time and money on putting these videos together, and they're hilarious.
I first thought they were going to. When I first saw the video of it, I said, "Is this from a movie?"
No, yeah,
because it looks so. It looks so
it's
good,
so well done. Yeah,
but I mean, oh man, it is. Yeah. It is pretty funny.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, it is.
The thing we brought up last hour, and I want to make sure I play the audio of it because I think it's just I think it's really interesting. And this is when we were talking about before that young people, a lot of young people don't want cars. They don't want the responsibility of cars. One of the controversies that I hear all over the place, you hear it constantly, is that corporations are buying homes. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Companies are buying homes and then renting them. And it's making the cost of homes go up. Yeah. Why are they doing this? Why are they controlling the market? Mm-hmm. Well, you had 60 Minutes interview a guy who is the head of a company by the name of Tricon, and they buy homes and then rent them out. Yeah. And he made a great point where he said, what you got to realize is young people don't necessarily wish to own a home or own a car.
Right.
That's the changes that is happening today. Here's just a little bit of that interview. Here we go.
Your revenue went up last year by 67%. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're expanding. I mean, when you think about it, we have an incredible amount of demand for what we do. So, Leslie, in any given week, we might have 200 or 300 homes available.
For renting?
For renting. And we get about 10,000 leasing inquiries a week.
Wow, there you go. And that was then they continued with the company and the success the company is having.
Yeah.
Tricon Residential is what they're called.
Right.
And they're going to buy they plan on buying 800 houses a month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there are a couple of things. So for that sector of rentals, you're looking at people who, want to have a pet and don't want to have to get up in the morning every morning and, they want a yard. They don't want to have to go walk their dog, at an apartment. And by the way, the apartment thing, you and I talked about it during COVID. Okay, the whole shared air thing, living in such, confined quarters with and smaller. Well, if there is a market, and there is, for renting homes, larger homes, then you want that. I mean, I have 2 of my grown children own homes, and a third one is about to. And we're in a situation, we're in a market where it still makes sense, and they understand the long-term viability of it. But if you're of the mindset, and many are, it kind of boggles my mind. It's you and I were talking about it off the air, I think yesterday. Everything for a lot of people, especially the younger generation right now, is location, location, location. I was at this place, and it was an outdoor setting, and we were having a celebration, little party. And across from this establishment, I mean, right there, within just a sidewalk, not even a half a block, is this big apartment complex. But then there's this Dallas area rapid transit rail that's elevated at that point, and it goes by every 15 minutes or so. And it's fairly loud. And I thought, they don't care. They're paying a premium rent because of the location. In fact, in part because it's next to rapid transit, and it's next to these establishments where there's restaurants and live music and everything else. They don't, and when I was driving there and also driving home, I don't know how many people I saw getting in Ubers. Many people were walking because they were hanging out right there, but people were jumping into Ubers. They don't want to own a car. They don't want the cost of ownership of a car. I've talked to my eldest granddaughters, the third of which is about to own a vehicle, but she said long term, it may not be the thing, depending on where she lives, as an adult. When she moves out, she's done with school now, and so after college, and she's completely on her own. Where does she want to live? Does owning a car make sense? Look at the car payments. If you look at the interest rates, the cost of a vehicle, the interest rates, the insurance, and the gasoline, and do the math on what your needs are. For me, we talked about it earlier. I like the privacy of my vehicle. I like the fact that it sits out front. And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, but it sits out front most of the time, and you're paying for a vehicle to sit out front. And it's going to be that way for me for years, and it's worth it because I can jump in it. And also that vehicle also does another job, and that's, part of it for me. It's a huge part of my recreation for me and my wife and my family. And so it fits what I need. But for a lot of people right now, do I really need a car? Do I really need to own a home? Or is renting? You get into the cost of ownership, and you're going to hit those repairs are yours.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
It's year 17 and a half of my home.
Yep.
New windows, got to redo the pool.
Oh, yeah.
It's
always
it's like
I just did the resurfacing of my porch and put and move part of a fence and all of these things, and you can't let things just go because it will be dilapidated in a fairly short amount of time, and so you're always having to put money into it, and people are looking at that going, yeah, for me it's not worth it because I would rather pay the premium, and it is a premium, on money you're never going to get back. The home will appreciate, and it will build your wealth along the way. But if you're not going to live in that particular house for long, I would recommend don't buy, because you're not going to see the return on it unless you're paying cash. You're likely not to see the return on it if you're only going to stay there for a few years.
Right.
Appreciation is only going to be so much, and part of that appreciation, a chunk of it, is going to go to real estate costs, the taxes on the property that you have to pay, the property taxes, and so people are, rethinking that whole thing. I still believe ownership is a great way to go. These investors clearly see the market for what's going on right now, and as you said, we're getting thousands and thousands of applications all the time.
Even though I lived in nice places, sometimes I didn't, but I rented till I was, 51.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just because I was in radio and I was hopping every couple of years to a different city.
Right.
Owning a house is worth every single cent.
Mm-hmm.
If you are going to stay in it for the, you lose fewer dollars in it without question over the period of it, especially if you stay in it for a significant period of time. I took out a 15-year mortgage that's paid for now, so everything else is gravy. But there's a ton of repairs, but the quiet. The quiet is worth everything in the world. And 17 and a half years later, it's like, my God, the quiet is great. To be able to wake up in the morning, not hear anything just because you've got insulation and brick walls separating you, and then the number of feet before there's another brick wall and insulation of the other home.
Well, that's
so
why
you never hear anything.
That's why these investors are looking at that, because people who rent now want to rent homes.
They want to rent homes.
They want a yard for their kids and their dogs, and they want all of that. They want a single family home. They just don't want to. They're willing to pay the premium because they don't want to deal with everything else.
And not all, but the way some young people look at vehicles, it's just a hassle. I mean, it's having a vehicle, and I have two, my 7-year-old vehicle and my 21-year-old vehicle, is an absolute necessity. I mean, and not only that, a necessity to do things, but it's a necessity because of my mindset, which is I want complete power and control immediately over my life when I have to do something, and I want that freedom to do it now, and that's never changed. And someone might say, yeah, but it's impractical because you're paying more, and my response would be, that's the cost of doing business.
Yeah,
the car is the absolute. I would never not want to have a car. I don't understand that other mindset, except for the fact that cars are so expensive right now that if you're just starting out, that I can understand. And inflation, you just can't afford a car. You just can't afford it.
Right.
And so a lot of it is necessity. But we also know a lot of young people want to live in the cities near public transportation. They Uber it everywhere, and they just don't want the hassle.
Right. If
there is a hassle.
Because, again, if they're like the rapid transit, rapid area transit, if you're living next to that, if you're living close to that, and you are okay with relying on that to get you to work. We had an old boss, the guy that hired me onto our flagship station years ago, that before he retired, in the years leading up to his retirement, he was getting on the train and riding the train into downtown. And he said, it's much better because I can sit there and do work on my way in. So it just depends on what your desires and needs are. But there is a market for it, and those investors are definitely getting in on that rental market right now, and it's probably going to be here for a while.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I've heard the term for a while now, but I just saw somebody on social media just said, what? What? They're now calling criminals what? It's like, you got to be kidding me. Justice-impacted individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Criminals.
Justice-impacted individuals.
Thieves will be called indebted borrowers. Yeah. Cohen didn't steal the money. He felt it was owed. The man didn't rob the bank. He recovered his bank fees from over the years.
Well, that's how bad it's got. I mean, with Lawrence O'Donnell, on MSNBC saying that the other day. I mean, this is how loony these people are. I mean, they're complete nutcases, folks.
Yeah,
we all know it.
They really are.
Come on.
It's insane. It really is insane.
He said he didn't get the bonus that he thought he deserved, and so he robbed him. So that's not really, that's sort of that's Robin Hood robbing.
Right. Steal from the rich, give to the corrupt. Like Robin Hood. Give to the convicted liar, like Robin Hood did. It's perfectly fine. I mean, seriously.
Justice-impacted individual.
Are you kidding me? Yeah.
What was the one for illegal immigrant in California? Because it went from illegal alien to illegal immigrant.
Temporarily displaced traveler.
That was it. Temporarily displaced traveler.
Yeah. Right.
Who became a justice-impacted individual.
Right. Before becoming an indebted borrower. Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, we just touched on it earlier, but really haven't covered the Trump trial yesterday. The defense rested. Here's Jonathan Turley, because the defense rested. They're not going to meet again until next Tuesday for closing arguments on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, instructions to the jury. That's because he's still considering, the directed verdict.
Right. Yeah.
It's still under consideration. Here's Jonathan Turley yesterday on it.
No, they're going to be under quite strong limitations. The jury probably does not know that they had this witness ready to testify on the election issues. The problem for the defense is that the judge curtailed his testimony so much that his testimony may actually reinforce the prosecutors, only in the sense that since he would not be able to explain that there's no election violation here, that he would just sort of reaffirm that this is a core issue in the case. What Smith was going to say is that there is no election violation, but the judge wouldn't let him go into those areas. Now, many judges would have taken that position of, I tell the jury what the law is. The problem is what the judge has done with the rest of the case. The reason this witness was needed is because this judge has allowed the jury to hear falsely that there were campaign violations, and there were not. And so I'm quite convinced that this jury thinks that there was a verified and established campaign violation committed and connected to Trump. That's just not the case.
Well, here's my thing, though, if I'm a juror, because Turley's been saying that all week, that he believes the jury believes there's been a campaign violation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say the jury believes it. Well, Cohen said that Trump didn't know anything about the payments to Stormy Daniels.
Right.
He didn't know it.
Right.
Cohen said it on the stand.
Yeah.
So if there's a campaign violation, it's Cohen.
Yeah.
Nobody's asked Turley that question yet that I've seen. If anybody's seen it, I would like to know what his answer was to that. I can't find it anywhere because that would be my question. You're saying that there's been a campaign violation. Well, you keep saying campaign violation committed by, and even then he didn't say whom. The campaign violation was committed by whom? Because the evidence from Cohen is, even if you believe there's been a campaign violation, it's not Trump because he didn't know about it.
Right. What? Again,
that's what I'd be asking, right? Okay, they said there's a campaign violation. Where is it? And if there is one, Trump didn't do it. Cohen did it. Cohen admitted that he paid the money. Trump didn't know about it. There's not a campaign violation for Trump.
I added a little sliver of hope that Judge Merchan, by not issuing his answer yesterday, is actually considering it, or the other part of it is, he's just kind of drawing this thing out as long as he can. This is not a speedy trial. It's anything but a speedy trial, to make sure that there's a negative political impact on Trump to every degree possible. I still don't know, because I still expect him to give this to the jury. I don't expect him to come back and do anything else. I think you're going to get to closing arguments, and I think Merchan is then going to give instructions to the jury, and I don't know what those instructions look like. I'm very curious.
So I look at this and say, okay, but the campaign finance is on the federal level.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but in order to get to that, in order to have the campaign violation, which you haven't described because you can't describe it because Trump paying back Cohen was with his own money. It wasn't campaign money.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened, even the documentation of what the payment was for happened after the election was over.
Yeah.
And then if the original misdemeanor is the actual non-disclosure agreement that happened, well, when the payments began, Trump didn't know about it.
Right.
So if Trump didn't know about it, I don't, even if they believe if you're telling me there's been a campaign violation, I'm a jury member going, well, where is it? You haven't explained to me where it is.
Right.
And you would hope that in the closing arguments, because seriously, this is almost like a Matlock case where you go, Matlock's going to wipe up with this one because you just know Matlock is going to just completely embarrass the prosecutor. We've all seen those episodes, right?
Yeah.
Probably a couple of Perry Mason, too, where the prosecutor, I'm just a Forrest Gump prosecutor, and I should have gone up against the hot dog eating Matlock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the folksy old, but with this case, with, the New York jury, a rogue prosecutor, a rogue judge, who knows what could happen in this? Because, as you said, you have no idea what the jury instructions are going to be.
Yeah, I just, again, what do you tell the jury? You just basically have to lie to them, which is not beyond the possibilities, because Merjan has been helping the prosecution do just that all along.
Mm-hmm.
So why not just carry that all the way through?
Because they're making the case that a campaign violation, that Trump has been convicted of a campaign violation, or somebody's been convicted of a campaign violation, when that's not the case. In fact, the opposite is the case.
Right.
So Turley hasn't been as specific as I'd like there, or the question hasn't been asked to him. Maybe in his mind he knows what he's saying. He just hasn't been asked that particular question, because that would be my question. Well, what when they say there's a campaign violation, what's that in relation to? Because a campaign violation, because is the judge saying that there's already been? Are they implying that a court and if they're trying to make the case, I would challenge that immediately. Wouldn't you have challenged that if a witness said there's been a campaign violation? Oh. Wouldn't you, as a defense at that point, saying, whoa, objection?
Yeah.
Where is this campaign violation? And did that happen? That's what stinks about not being able to watch it live yourself.
Yeah.
Because there's just too many questions. Because that would be the key right there. He keeps saying he allowed Cohen and the prosecutors to say it. If I'm the defense, I'm saying the prosecutor keeps saying there's an election, that there is a campaign violation. Judge, where is that campaign violation?
Yeah, where?
Why can't the defense ask that question? And if they have, how was it answered? Was it answered in front of a jury? Was it questioned in front of the jury? Jeez.
Yeah.
What a mess.
It's maddening. And I don't, again, we'll see when they come back on Tuesday. I don't, with the closing arguments, I don't know if it could go to, I don't know if they expect it to go to a jury on Tuesday, or if that would happen Wednesday. But it will be next week sometime. And I do believe that the judge is going to send it to the jury. But, man, I'm curious all day as to how that happens.
Why did he take so long? Because I thought he would come out this morning with the decision. And I was looking all over for it. I'm like, well, wait a minute, where is it?
You and I were both surprised that he didn't just immediately say no. And, just almost as a natural response. But the fact that he was going to consider it overnight, it was like, okay, fine. We expected fully yesterday morning he would say no. And the fact that he's stretching it out over, this time, I still expect he's going to say no. I just don't have any reason to believe all of a sudden he's going to do a 180 after how he's behaved.
Here's more from Jonathan Turley from yesterday.
Defense is going to want to be heard at length. I believe that there are layers of reversible error in this case.
Okay, we're having problems with that audio, but basically that's what he said.
Yeah.
That there's just tons of reversible errors. And Dershowitz the other day said he saw more examples of reversible error in one day than he did in 60 years.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember, these are not Trump supporters,
right,
in any manner or way at all.
Right.
They're just looking at the law.
Yep.
And that's why you really don't see. The only thing you see, well, you saw it yesterday. The Democrats are scared. One of the reasons, Bill Maher's out there promoting what, and it seems like they all decided they all got their talking points at the same time. He's out there, saying, I can't vote for Trump because of it'll be the end of democracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't
right,
concede
right.
the election. Well, that's sort of fallen apart for him. Megyn Kelly sort of destroyed him on that one yesterday. But then you've got an MSNBC. They bring on, Comey as they bring Comey on as the special guest. The guy who is the best example in modern times of the complete stinking filthy rot in the FBI.
Yeah,
and in the talk about politics in the FBI. Comey, there's where the stink is.
Yep.
And he's out there promoting, I'm afraid democracy's going to end. Shut up.
Yeah.
Go back in your hole.
Yeah. I noticed that his tie was too long.
What he did to destroy what he did to destroy the reputation of the FBI is reprehensible.
Yeah. It truly
what
is.
he did.
It truly is.
The core of the stink and the rot inside the FBI, James Comey. He doesn't give a damn about the law.
No, he's the face of the rot.
He's the face of the rot.
Poster child of the rot.
He is.
Just maddening.
And
Just
on
maddening.
MSNBC, and it was just like, going to rehash this again? Not working. Well, they're panicking because of the whole thing that more people believe that Biden is a threat to democracy than Trump.
Yeah.
That's killing them.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
just killing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I think Bill Maher on his, his media tour, that's his focus. No, Trump because he can't handle it either.
Right.
And he even knows once that goes away, there's nothing. He can't even support Biden unless he does this imaginary thing that Trump is unless this delusional thing Bill Maher is on, that Trump is a bigger threat to democracy than Biden. Yeah, look at the lawfare right now. Well, look at what the Democrats are involved in right now. Look at the censoring of Twitter and social media that happened.
Well, again, if this goes to a jury and they come back guilty, you talk about a massive profile boost for former President Trump. Being thrown, he'll be catapulted into pure martyrdom. That is going to be something that Alvin Bragg needs to hope and pray doesn't happen. Is that he's found guilty. You do that, and it's everything. The gauntlet is going to be fully thrown down. There's no way to stop. The fundraising will go through the roof immediately.
Well, the polls show that apparently Americans have watched enough Law and Order to see the rogue and crooked judges out there.
Oh, yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So nothing really to talk about the Memorial Day weekend, and then we'll come back and see where it goes. But you were making the case. Either way, it's bad for Democrats. If they get a conviction, it's bad. If they don't get a conviction, it's bad. You were talking about if
the judge,
Merchant, if
Merchant says, "All right, I don't want to create the martyr." If this is part of his consideration, just let's say that's his only motivation, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to create the martyr. And I can step in here and I can grant this for the defense. And he would be doing so legally. You can't come back and go, what in the world was he thinking? You can't say that because you can look at the lack of case that was brought by the prosecution and say, nope, it was the right thing to do. There was nothing here. All along, there was nothing here. Why Merchant let it go on for so long is a big question, but still, in the end, he cut it off. He doesn't want to create the martyr. Let's say that's his only motivation. But then again, you do that, and Trump walks out of there victorious, one way or the other. Trump wins. There's just no way around it. It's not going to be pleasant, but you're going to create a martyr in Trump if you send this to the jury and they come back with a guilty verdict.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.